All right, what is going on, everybody? I got this pair of PowerBlock Elite 90-pound dumbbell set around the year 2007, 2008, something like that, so which puts these things over 15 years old. And so I thought I'd give you guys kind of my 2 cents about how these things have held up over that period of time, the pros and cons about this model and design, because even at the current stage, the lineup of the PowerBlock models looks very similar to this classical elite style design that they have. And they have some iterations through over the years, but it seems to be what they're kind of defaulting back to. But I'll also kind of compare those, and if I would go back in time, or even currently, if I had to repurchase another whole set of adjustable dumbbells, would I consider one of the more other quick change technology release mechanisms? Like I'm using this Great Flex as a reference, but things like Nuobel or Snode as my preferred choice or recommendation for an adjustable dumbbell. So I'm gonna jump right into it. I'll put timestamps down below. Everything featured in this video can be found down below in the description box if you want to help support me in the channel. I bought these at a time where I was actually going to use them training for my personal training clients. So I actually literally would lug these things house to house, not the whole set, but like 30 or 40 pounds. I bought it alongside this PowerBlock bench. That was like a traveling bench. It was made in the USA, pretty cool, and along with this t-shirt. That's how much of a fan I was. But I bought these because I had a friend in high school who had this similar set, a little bit older model. He had the big block expansion, went up to 130 pounds, which that was one of the biggest regrets I had about this particular model when I picked it up, is that over the years, there was still an opportunity in that window was open where I could actually get the 130 pound expansion. And it's one of those regrets I had. And I'll get into like functionally would I use it that much? I don't know, but it was just one of those things that just looked so cool also to have that capability to lift that amount of weight if it really wanted to. But even the newer models they're putting out there, I'm not seeing that expansion being beyond 90 pounds. Getting into like how this thing has held up throughout the years, I won't get into the overall function on the PowerBlock. I think most of you guys are familiar with that. You can see it's got some chipping, some minor rusting. The metal rods have been okay. I had an accident where I dropped it once. Doing this kind of like swinging kettlebell type swing action and dented this. That was fairly recent and that was kind of annoying. So it kind of says something that, yeah, if you drop these things the wrong way, these metal pins can be annoying. I'm sure I can replace this and maybe really kink it more into place. Just haven't done it. It's fine. You just got to like really shove it in. How it sits flat, you can see that mine, again, also kind of dinged up. I think I dropped it at a certain angle. I haven't really dropped these things that often. Obviously, I'm not trying to drop them, but that was something that kind of wore the metal out. It is cool these things are made in the USA. I think the other iterations over time some were not made in the USA. Don't quote me on that. But I think, again, really cool is USA made. Seems like it held up very well. Again, minor paint, minor rusting, kind of in the eye of the beholder when you guys are looking at it. The one problem I had a lot, and that was I think in one particular part of these cores, was that this little area here would always get loose. So when I'd be doing things like curls, whatever, my hand would kind of slide around. So I continuously would have to kind of go in here and tighten up this middle section. So otherwise, the thing is still very functional, looks, you know, relatively kind of unchanged since I really got it, other than the minor kind of chipping and rusting. Getting into some of the cons of this product that over the years I've really noticed, and these are things that are very common. They're somewhat little as far as number, but they're kind of major if you're considering it. One big thing is that, especially for smaller individuals, like when my wife used this, she would never use it that often because other than straight pressing and pulling, which feels really good, when you're doing things like curls or lateral raises, single joint stuff, she would just say it aggravates her wrist. It just was kind of big and bulky for her hand. I think they made those sport models for a period of time, and they might still make them, which I think maybe for smaller frame people. That was a possible alternative, but just kind of their big kind of clunky design. And that is probably one of the biggest cons, is the fact that there's a pro going for it, but given this design, for some of those single joint actions, this thing does not feel the best, especially compared to a lot of the newer models of dumbbells that are out there. Now, getting into the pros of the PowerBlocks and where I think these things really shine, and I've said this before, I think many people have said this as well, there are definitely cons in those single joint stuff. When you talk about straight presses, straight rows, I love the way these things feel. I actually sometimes love them more so than compared to traditional dumbbells. Just in the way the kind of this square design, how it kind of sits in your hand. Also great, certainly for like hammer curls, but any kind of straight press, straight row feels good. I think they're also great, especially considering you can load these pretty heavy for things like RDLs. There's some modified type of squats you can do. I think I've even shown that in the channel. Feels great for things like cleans, snatches, exercise I used to love, which is kind of why I wish I had more than 90 plus pounds, were things like the clean and single arm press. I was a good staple using it for this. Even just kind of holding the rack position with like a one arm dumbbell feels really good with these PowerBlock and the block design. I think that's all. I think just aesthetically, that's one of the reasons I kind of fell in love with these too. It still holds up to this time, I just like the way they aesthetically look. They're really cool looking. Conversely, I think to some of the other upscale models they did throughout the years, they changed the design up a little bit, more like this kind of oval shape. So I'm happy they kind of got this traditional, you know, blocky type look. The other huge pro of the Power Block was obviously the fact that you could quickly change the weight on the fly compared to things that have been around for a while, like the Ironmaster dumbbells. That probably sits and feels a little more versatile in your hand, but it just took a lot longer to actually adjust that middle core out. And that also, I think, is the reason why you can handle more weight capability in that one. When you actually look at these new modern dumbbells that are out there, this is this Great Flex one that I did a review in this. They sent it to me, very cool of them to do that. I probably, if I'm being totally honest, I probably gravitate towards this for most exercises just because it is easier to change this thing up on the fly a lot faster. I got a different type of kind of off-brand Titan Fitness rack for my Power Blocks that was a little bit cheaper, so I can't get those lower settings as easier. But with that being said, yeah, I'd use this thing probably the most. I gravitate towards this the most. If I had this and even it's like a heavier pair of adjustable dumbbells, I probably would be using those, like say a Nuobel or Snowed or something like that. The downside, of course, is that with these types of cradle systems, depending on the ones you got, at least with these, I really baby it because I don't want the weight to kind of get that core to kind of slip out. If you ever had that happen, it's very annoying. I don't want to damage the cradle because that can just mess up the whole entire system. So they're a little bit more sensitive in that regard. Not that you should be dropping weights, but if you drop these things, you could really kind of mess them up. The other thing that's an issue with these kind of middle kind of core-based models is, and I noticed this when I first had my Flybird set, that was a lighter set for my wife, is that when you held them, it kind of felt like the weight wanted to pull a certain direction based on how big that opening and the diameter of this little circle was. With this one, I don't notice that as much. And I've heard with the Nuobel and the Snowed ones that it feels a lot more flush flat in your hand, but just the way the tension kind of gives off in your hand is slightly different, I'd say, because of the design. So I would say, you know, pound for pound, as far as which one I would use the most, if I had them both next to me, it would probably be these new modern day units. But all those things considered, there's always pros and cons, guys. I think straight presses, straight pulls, this still wins out, but also the weight capability. I know it doesn't seem like much, and I know I've probably said the opposite. I definitely said the opposite before in the past videos that practically for most people, I say the adjustable dumbbells now going up to like 55 pounds, or maybe again, the 80 pounds is totally sufficing for most people, but I can still chest press and row excess of 90 plus pounds, even when I wasn't doing it that often. So while you might not need it as much, there's something to be said that if you have the capability and it's possible you can do it, that feels nice, versus if I got something like this, knowing that I could go more, and I don't have that option of being able to do that, that can be kind of a negative. So I kind of wish these adjustable dumbbell sets would offer heavier loads, like maybe 80 plus pounds. And if there's something like that, let me know. But it seems like there's topping off at around 80. Power Block, I wish they would actually give those higher expansions. There's probably a good reason why they didn't do that, but I wish they went above, say, 100 plus pounds. So you give you guys more options and more things that you could possibly do to open some doors up for using these adjustable dumbbells in the home. Now, with all those things considered, like if Power Block had the 90 pound plus models, I would still probably be gravitating more towards those if I was buying this stuff all over again. But with the Snowed and Nuobel, just really topping off around the same point, 80 and 90, I'm like, yeah, I'm sacrificing 10 pounds, but not a huge deal. I can still do a lot, especially if you get other free weights, barbells and external weights, and there's all sorts of ways you can challenge yourself. Certainly, if you guys watch my channel, you know that's possible. So that's, I don't know, I probably would gravitate again to those more modern day adjustable dumbbells, but the Power Block still has a lot of things going for it in its basic design. Also, like I've said before many times, I love that they're still made in the USA. I love that they're making these newer models in the USA versus in the past. It seems like they're maybe getting away from that. So it's cool to see that happening. But that's just my opinion, guys. Any questions, comments, feedback, let me know. Love to hear your thoughts if you have a Power Block, considering a Power Block, or if you have one of these newer adjustable models that are out there. That's it, you guys. See you on the next video.